you have some financial insights into what homeowners can do who've lost their homes and so much more, particularly in the Palisades fire in LA. Give us a game plan. Tell us what you'd recommend to these families who would approach you for this type of situation.
Yeah, Dave, first of all, I mean, we recognize this is just an awful situation for all of those affected by these fires. Our sympathies go out to those communities impacted by these tragic events. In most cases, people have lost everything and have been displaced from their homes and neighborhoods and with very little to come back to. So it's a very difficult situation. I think, we also see an incredible outpouring of support, right? As people want to get involved and rally around the community and those impacted. And you hear countless stories of individuals, organizations stepping up to the plate and getting involved to give back. And I think it's in that spirit that we're talking today, making people aware of the relief opportunities that they can take advantage of that may not be top of mind or kind of coming from an unlikely source. And in this case, we're talking about tax relief from the federal government, and in the case of California, the Franchise Tax Board, which is California's taxing authority. You can potentially deduct the loss in value of your property, sort of minus any insurance that you've received from your insurance company if you're covered. You can deduct that from your prior year's income, or you could carry it forward as what's called a net operating loss. The law basically looks at the difference in value of the property the day before and the day after the incident. So, in this case, an example, if your house was worth $4 million the day before the incident and the value dropped to $2 million the day after the incident, and you received about, let's call it $500K in insurance proceeds, you could potentially claim a $1.5 million loss and deduct that from your income. That's where the relief comes into play, David.
Well, that's huge for a lot of homeowners, particularly in high net worth areas. You sort of mentioned this in broad brush, so I guess my question is the strategy you just outlined, is it isolated to a particular tragedy like Palisades, or is this now blanketed for literally any national disaster one might face in California?
Yeah, and I think this is a great example of, often we talk about, sort of rallying against the government and what the government's doing to us rather than for us. I think this is a great example of the government recognizing that those who've been impacted by any natural disaster, so whether it's California, the hurricanes in Florida, you are eligible to, you may be potentially eligible to receive this relief, okay? Some of the nuances to it for sure, but if you've been impacted by a disaster, you're in a federally declared disaster area, you can be eligible for that relief. And some of the nuances involve, three basic types of disaster qualifications. One's either a federal casualty loss, one's a disaster loss, one's a qualified disaster loss. All that the individual has to know is that you may be eligible, but it could impact the amount that you receive in relief from either the federal or state agency.
Hey, Raleigh, so how do these type of contingency plans, these types of incentive programs you have, or tax incentive programs during a loss, how do they factor into your wealth management strategies for individuals? Somebody comes to you like that. Are they part of your overall assessment and strategy for families and individuals that come into your office?
Yeah, look, by nature, Dave, we are first and foremost planners. Good planning matters, right? Contingency plans like this are very important to consider. And it all, in our view, always starts with good planning, good advice. And if that is in place, you've got insurance, you've got investments, you've got a backup plan, liquidity, a lot of the impact of unforeseen events like these can be mitigated. And so we talk to people in all kinds of different states. Some of them have great plans. They tend to recover more quickly. Others who aren't so fortunate, it's a little bit of a longer haul, but we're able to actually put some things in place for them to get them on a good track.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Give Give us an overview of Centura Wealth Advisory and yourself, Raleigh. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so Centura, we are a firm, a wealth management firm, a boutique firm based in San Diego, California. We've got offices all throughout the country. We serve business owners, owners preparing for an exit, C-level suite executives, and high net worth families who have very complex planning needs and a desire for long-term financial optimization. And I think really it all starts with what I'll call our exponential value commitment. Basically, we'll do an assessment of a client's personal financial situation, look under the hood and determine where and when we can drive exponential value from tax planning, right? It all starts with good tax planning. If we can mitigate a client's tax bill from anywhere from 20 to 80%, that creates what we call raving fans. And those raving fans go and tell their friends and their friends and so on. And we find that there's not a lot of firms out there that are really focused on income tax planning as the foundation for their value proposition. So that's where it starts first with us. Second, I would say, David, we really focus on managing that professional network of individuals that surround our clients. We often hear from the clients that we serve, very complicated, working with many different types of professionals that surround them, conflicting opinions. We take that burden off their plate and manage that for them so that we can focus on making sure that our clients receive and execute on their plan and goals. And we have a process that enables us to do that and really create and craft a very customized approach to serving each and every one of our clients based on their facts, their assumptions, and goals. Every plan is different, and it's really tailored to help meet the needs and goals of our clients.
Raleigh, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for hanging out with us and talking about this important topic. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Dave, thank you. Appreciate it.